What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the BMW today. So this is actually going to be stage 3 of removing the engine and replacing the timing chain on my N47 engine. So today we basically want to get the engine ready for removal. So that means anything that connects the engine to the chassis of the car, we need to unbolt. So that is going to be the gearbox, the exhaust, any sensors, any pipes, whether they're coolant or fuel, and also we need to unbolt the aircon compressor and the power steering pump from the engine itself, so that we don't have to bleed them systems. We can just leave them all plumbed in and then we can just unbolt them from the engine, and it means that we won't have to let the gas out of the aircon system, and then we also don't have to drain the power steering fluid. I will be doing that at a later stage, but not yet. The goal is to get the engine ready for removal. So let's get cracking anyway. Okay then, so I'll just explain where we're at the moment then. So I have actually disconnected the battery at the rear of the car. Obviously, as you know, the battery is in the boot of these cars. So I've disconnected the negative terminal on that. I've also disconnected the main positive line that goes, pretty sure this goes the length of the car, from the alternator. That's disconnected. I've disconnected a few sensors. One goes down to the aircon compressor down here, and then I believe there is one that goes down to the power steering pump. Did I just disconnect that from? Oh no, that was the aircon compressor one. I'm not too sure if there is one that goes to power steering pump. But yeah, I've disconnected a couple of sensors. Where I'm looking at next, there is a little bracket at the back there, which has the, I think there is a line for the fuel pump down there. I need to disconnect that, and then I am going to try and tackle this pipe, which is the heater return pipe. So that goes, so we have one pipe here that goes to the heater matrix, and then you have one return one that goes back to the engine block. So just need to disconnect that, and then that is the last coolant pipe left. And then I'm going to unbolt the aircon compressor and the power steering pump. Okay then, so I have taken the drive belt off, and I'm going to attempt to remove the aircon compressor and the power steering pump now. Pretty sure all that's holding the aircon compressor on is 1, 2, 3 bolts, one at the back there. So I'm going to take these out anyway. Okay then, so a quick little update. We've unbolted the alternator. It's literally just 2 bolts holding that on, and then it gave us better access to pull out the aircon compressor, so that is now free away from the engine itself. And then underneath the aircon compressor is the power steering pump, which I'm not too sure how it's bolted on. I think you may have to remove the pulley for that, to unbolt that from this bracket. Okay then, so let me just explain where we're at. We have the aircon compressor unbolted from this bracket right here. We have the power steering pump unbolted. There is just two, where are there? Two bolts, one that goes through there, one that goes through the other side. Then there is one more at the back, which is quite difficult to access, holding that bracket on there to this huge engine bracket, and that's a 13mm bolt. So once you've got those three out, the power steering pump should be free and away from this bracket. I've actually taken all the bolts out bar two, which I should now be able to access. This is two other female Torx bolts, the same as those ones. I'm going to take these out and then I should be able to fully remove this bracket away from the engine block. This should lift out now, it says. There we go. Okay then, so just a quick little update of where we are currently at. Pretty much the only thing left on the engine in terms of the wiring loom is the glow plug module, which is located just there. Obviously I don't need to unbolt that now, that's all just separate from the rest of the wiring loom. That's all just, you know, out of the way and disconnected now. The only thing left is the exhaust, which the downpipe for the catalytic converter, that just bolts onto the turbo just there, so I just need to unbolt that flange. And so yeah, so we've obviously disconnected the AC compressor, power steering pump, we've taken all the lines off for the high pressure fuel pump, and we've had to disconnect some different sensors and things as well, like this great big long one that goes in just down there. And yeah, it was actually easier just to take the sensor out rather than trying to take this connector off and, you know, risk snapping it, so we just took the whole thing out. But in terms of wiring, that's pretty much everything done. So we're going to unbolt the exhaust, and then what we're going to do is jack the car up and then start unbolting the gearbox. Okay then, so I actually just took the first bell housing bolt out, and it's the one that goes into this bracket here that also helps keep the downpipe up as well. So that's disconnected now. Just going to go ahead and take that bolt out there. I think it's a 13mm bolt, and then the exhaust should be completely free. Okay then, so obviously the flange bolt is out, the exhaust is now essentially loose, but I did actually lie on the bracket which bolts the exhaust to the gearbox. There's actually two of these bolts, so I've removed two of them, and then I've actually went ahead and removed the other last remaining bell housing bolt that's at the top. What we're going to do now is jack the car up, get underneath, unbolt the rest of the bell housing bolts, then should be able to drop the exhaust out the way as well. Okay, so the last bolt that I was talking about that holds the exhaust on, I think, is just this one here, and it's actually a 13mm nut you just have to take off, and the exhaust should be free now. And the final piece of the wiring loom is just plugged into the, I'm pretty sure this is the oil level sensor. It's plugged into there, and then there is a connector that goes, well, there's actually two. There's the power cable that goes on to the starter motor, and I think it's the ground connector as well. It just bolts into the starter motor there. And yeah, that's nice and up there and tucked out the way. And now it's just going to be a case of getting these bolts, these E14 bolts, out of the bow housing, and then we can remove the engine away from the gearbox. Okay then, so we have taken all of the bolts out of the gearbox, so all the bell housing bolts are now out. There is a combination of E10 and E14 bolts, so just be aware of that. Most of the bolts at the bottom are E10s, and then the ones higher up are mostly E14 bolts. I've also taken the earth strap off, which sits down there onto the engine mount. And it's now just a case of taking the one nut off that engine mount and then one nut off that engine mount down there, and then the engine should then come away from the gearbox. Okay then, so we've actually ran into a small problem. Like, it's nothing major, but it means it's going to take a little bit more time than what I thought. Basically, the engine crane that I have is not long enough as it is, you know, to take the engine out with the bumper in place, because as it is, the engine crane only comes to sort of there, and obviously it needs to be right in the middle of the engine so it lifts up the engine steady. I'm pretty sure the engine crane's just going to smack against the front bumper, which I do not want to happen. So essentially what I'm going to have to do tomorrow is take the front bumper off, and then obviously I'll just need to take the two nuts that hold the engine mounts in place, and the engine will be able to come out then. But I'm going to actually end this video here. I think it's gone on long enough. Obviously in the next video you will see me actually removing the engine finally. So yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you guys in that next video when we get the engine out. Peace!